Right. Okay. So we've got the International Handreading Conference coming up this weekend. And one of the focuses we have for the weekend is a very special guest coming to talk to us, which is a woman called Alexandra Nagel, who is an expert with a PhD on Julius Spier. So she has been studying Etty Hillesum, who is a Dutch writer and poet, who had a relationship with Julius Spier, and she's become an expert in everything to do with Julius Spier. So she's coming to give us a lecture presentation on the hands of Etty Hillesum as analysed by Julius Spier, and she sent us his handprints and her handprints. We're going to be analysing their hands too. So in preparation for the weekend, I thought it'd be quite a good idea to actually reread Julius Spier's book, The Hands of Children. And because of that, I found some very interesting things. I thought I'd just read them to you because there's some really nice lines that he's written in here, which I think are really valuable to not only outline what his approach to hand reading is, but I think some really good points about hand reading should be practiced, and particularly his particular form of hand reading, psychochirology, as he called it. By an analysis and interpretation of all the features of the hand, the chirologist endeavors to construct a complete psychological character portrait of the personality, taking into account life experiences, dispositions, talents, vocational aptitude, and dispositions to illnesses. First and fundamental commandment of chirology is that no single sign, trait, or line should be considered and valued on its own strength, but only in relation to all the features concerned. The devotee of chiromancy or palmistry, however, draws his conclusions about the qualities and character dispositions of a person from definite signs without considering the dynamic and psychological factors. Thus, on the whole, he ascertains external events and the circumstances of life from certain signs in the hand without connecting these events with certain qualities of the character. Palmistry, therefore, on the whole, deals with the prediction of the future. And for the layman, it's often rather difficult to separate chirology from palmistry or chiromancy, for many hand readers style themselves chirologists, but still indulge in the old manner of interpreting isolated events, and that is to say, they predict the future. In my method, which is based on independent observations and 30 years of practical experience, I've incorporated hardly more than the four main lines of the old palmistry systems, and it differs fundamentally from all extant systems because it is not concerned with the static features alone, but also and mainly with the dynamic aspect. I attribute great importance to the consideration of a person's forefathers in the analysis of the hand, biologically as well as psychologically. The human soul is not finished and an unalterable entity, but is in a state of continuous flux. Human beings have dispositions and talents which, according to the influence of their environment, education, and other conscious and unconscious impressions, can be furthered and developed, or inhibited and suppressed. And it is the task of the chirologist to ascertain the original dispositions of a person and to what extent the above-mentioned influences and other alien forces have prevented their free development. Thus, my work is not only concerned with the mere description of a person's present state of mind, but also with the awakening of latent and buried possibilities and the indication of the true tendency of his inner being. In my chirological practice, I lay great stress on the past because it's the past which makes us understand the present, and because the true understanding of the present and its purposeful adjustment to the whole personality are the condition for a positive and constructive development. As I attribute great importance to all experiences and impressions received in the past, it is only logical that I should strictly refuse to make pronouncements about the future. But if I did describe future events, I should automatically exclude the active participation of a person in the shaping of their own development. By telling a person correct things about his character and his past, that is to say, things he's able to verify, we tend to suggest an atmosphere of confidence which can remain equally effective in the case of subsequent negative predictions, and the person may thereby be induced to concentrate with all his strength on these bad future possibilities. And this attitude has a paralyzing effect on the natural powers of resistance, at the same time deprives the person of his inner possibility to escape from what he now believes to be his doom. The fact that he consciously or unconsciously concentrates his attention upon the unavoidable catastrophe actually drives him into it. However, it would be wrong to assume that only negative predictions can have a blighting effect. Let us assume a man is told of great external success which is coming to him. Sure of success, he might be induced to give up working to perfect his own personality or mode of life, and to let himself go, thus doing harm to his inner self. Besides, such predictions cannot be made with an adequate measure of certainty because the lines and signs of the inner hand upon which the predictions are based are subject to changes, and they may disappear within longer or shorter intervals, or new ones may emerge. Moreover, the signs of the inner hand have not only an external but also an inner reference, and the fortune teller is only concerned with static phenomena and is bound to correlate his findings mainly with external events, will shackle and restrict his consultee to a fixed attitude. Inner processes, however, to an even greater extent than external events, are especially dependent on a free display and interplay of energies and forces. Though the chirologist cannot and should not make predictions, he can, however, discover and point out possibilities of development and give prognostic advice in the case of difficult pathological or psychopathic dispositions. In such cases, the chirologist bases his conclusions about possible future developments upon certain unalterable signs and verifiable symptoms. And so that's kind of really good summary approach, I think, of the difference between hand psychology or psychochirology and chiromancy or palmistry. It's trying to work out what the inner patterns are within the human person's consciousness and how they manifest in their life. And therefore, that actually gives some power to actually make some changes to that. Since it's not just all an external set of events of things that are going to happen to you. And so Spier there outlines, that's page 4, I think, of his book, outlines his whole approach and his philosophy to hand reading. And although that book was written in 1942, it's very prescient in terms of how it represents hand reading and what hand reading is in fact all about. So, got to get myself ready. We've got the conference starting on Saturday morning. It's now Friday evening here, Thursday evening, Friday morning here. And it's going to be a great conference. We have Julius Spier and Hands of Etty Hilsum being presented by Alexander Nagel. I will be doing a presentation on emotional compatibility, relationship compatibility as seen in the hand. We have Johnny Fincham talking about simian lines and Sydney lines, and Felicity Booth will be talking about the deep, dark unconscious. So it's going to be a fascinating weekend. And if you're going to be there, I look forward to seeing you. All right. Hope you found that interesting and useful about Julius Spier. There's something very useful about that book.